Let's go to the American city of Philadelphia. Joining us from there, Mark Fallon, who is a former director of the Criminal Investigative Task Force at Guantanamo Bay. His organization conducted a parallel and independent series of interrogations and intelligent analysis from those that were being carried out by Joint Task Force Guantanamo, the CIA, and the FBI. Mark, thank you so much indeed for your time. I mean, first of all, just explain to us which 2.5 years those were that you were the director of this Criminal Investigative Task Force, and then tell us what you found when you arrived at Guantanamo.
Sure. I was the deputy commander, special agent in charge of the task force from its inception prior to 9/11 until May of 2004. And this was the task force established under the Department of Defense as the entity with exclusive jurisdiction to investigate the al-Qaeda terrorist network for trials before military commission. And so when the first detainees arrived at Guantanamo, we were told that they would be the worst of the worst. And what we found was that we had people that were sold into slavery by the U.S. government, and people who never should have been brought to Guantanamo in the first place, for the most part.
What sort of techniques of interrogation and questioning were going on that you were seeing?
Well, there were two different methodologies. The methodology that we used in the Criminal Investigation Task Force, and I was a career NCIS special agent, a federal agent for my career, and we used the type of rapport building, relationship building methods that had been successful in the investigation of the attack on the USS Cole, in previous terrorist investigations that I had worked, the Blind Sheikh case, Omar al-Rahman, and others. And so we used tried and true methodologies that would be admissible within different courts of law. Unfortunately, there was an alternative methods that were being developed by the CIA and the Department of Defense that were replicating methods that the North Koreans and communists had used to get false confessions from service members. These are called SEER techniques, which stands for survive, evade, resist, and escape. And these were methods that we would give a small dose to our service members to try to show them the type of treatment that they would receive from an adversary that doesn't adhere to the Geneva Conventions. And what the CIA and the Department of Defense did was they didn't re-engineer them, they just repurposed them. They took those same methodologies and would use those in an effort to do these so-called interrogations. But what it garnered was information that those interrogators wanted to hear.
And therefore, would you say that they were counterproductive?
Oh, they're absolutely counterproductive. They were illegal, immoral, ineffective, and counterproductive. It was those type of techniques that were done to Ibn Sheikh al-Libi, who was the emir of the Khaldun training camp, who said there was al-Qaeda in Iraq. He said it because he was under duress and torture. And that type of information was used by President Bush in Cincinnati, Ohio, to rail the American public towards war with Iraq, was used by Colin Powell at the United Nations to get the international community to back war in Iraq because of the information that he said there was al-Qaeda in Iraq. And he just said that so the pain would stop. So torture is effective in establishing policy decisions. It's not an effective method to get accurate, reliable information, however.
Mark, when you consider that out of the almost 800 prisoners who have been in Guantanamo since it was first opened, only 12 have ever been charged, only 2 have ever been convicted by military commissions. What does it say about that detention center?
It's a total failure. Guantanamo is an opportunity lost. I had such high hope when the first detainees arrived, thinking that I would be receiving the worst of the worst to investigate, and thinking that if we could show the world a fair and just process, it would be an alternative to some of the repressive regimes that may have driven some of these people to violent extremism. And unfortunately, it's a failed experiment. And at this time, the facility needs to be closed. I am the interim executive director of the Center for Ethics and the Rule of Law at the University of Pennsylvania, and we have just published 13 recommendations for President Biden and the Congress so that if they follow this plan, they could look to close Guantanamo Bay prison within a year, institute some type of system of justice for the 9/11 and Cole victim families, and restore the rule of law within the law of war.
So politically, why has it not been closed? Some people have been telling us that the justification for those who don't want it to be closed is literally one name, Khalid Sheikh Mohammed, the man who's believed to be the planner behind 9/11, and that's justification for the whole place staying open.
Well, that's inaccurate in my opinion. The reason that Guantanamo exists is because of torture. It's because we tortured some folks, and Guantanamo Bay allows the United States to drape this cloak of invisibility over anything that would give any information out about torture. And the greatest fear that the U.S. government, that some segments of the U.S. government have, is that that will be exposed. The problem is it's already been exposed. The Senate Intelligence Committee torture report, the Senate Armed Services Committee detainee abuse report, the blatant torture as part of U.S. policy is well known within the world. It resulted in atrocities at Guantanamo Bay. It resulted in the atrocities at Abu Ghraib. And until we come to grips with that, we will never be able to restore the rule of law within the United States.
Mark, really appreciate your time. So interesting to hear of your experiences in your analysis. Really appreciate it. Mark Fallon in Philadelphia.